I want to make 3 points to try to focus this panel, which is really looking on the use of infrastructure interconnectivity as a way of improving the strategic and economic and physical security of greater Europe, because that's what we really should have as our principal interest. Before I say that, I just want to make the point that Romania is held in the highest regard by America and the American government. And I think it's a point for all the Romanians really to understand fully. Romania has been side by side with the coalition in Afghanistan and Iraq. You have shed blood. Your Prime Minister, your Minister of Defense, and your Chief of Defense Staff have made a very successful trip to Washington last week. You will be spending 2% of GDP on defense and spending a great deal of money on procurement. And the United States government and the rest of the alliance is very appreciative, and you should understand how deep that appreciation runs. The 3 points I want to make are very, very straightforward. First, when you take a look at the world today, the centrifugal forces are at work. Brexit, the German elections, you had the rise of the right, you've got populism, you have, at best, a curious government in the United States, and you have all sorts of active measures that are being taken by the Russians. Second, you have what is really necessary, it seems to me, in terms of making a strategic pivot to the Baltic, to the Black Sea from the Baltic. And the reason I say that is because not only is the Black Sea pivotal, but events that are taking place right now in Russia and in this part of the world require greater focus and greater attention by, I think, collectively, all of us. And I hope that this panel will show one means of being able to use this interconnectivity and the use of infrastructure as a means to develop the security. I'd like to start with your very distinguished Minister of Foreign Affairs, Teodor Milescu. Mr. Minister, if you would say a few words. I'm going to limit the panel to about 7 minutes because we have a lot of us and not very much time, so forgive me if I'm ruthless in terms of the allocation. Mr. Minister.
Thank you very much. 7 minutes, it's okay, just for thanking and expressing the gratitude for this invitation, and also to really appreciate the participation to such a prestigious meeting. I have at least 2 reasons to welcome this initiative of the Aspen Romania Institute to organize the summit. First, it offers a high-level platform of dialogue among public authorities, private sectors, academia, and think tanks on an issue like energy security. And secondly, because I'm a representative of the Department of Prahova in the Romanian Parliament, and I'm proud to represent a country with such a long tradition and industrial skills and capacities of this region, in the region of the energy sector. Therefore, I must to thank first of all the Institute and also for the local authorities, local partners for the invitation and the opportunity to address to you. May I use this opportunity to say hello to the prefect of the Prahova, who is our boss from a political point of view and the organizational point of view. Now, Central and Southeastern Europe, along with the Greater Black Sea area, are regions where we need badly a balanced energy security, energy equity, and environmental sustainability is paramount. It is also critical for Central and Southeastern Europe to undertake the imperative of energy transition as closely linked to the consumers' expectations and their active role in the energy system. Our view is that a successful integration of the countries of the region in the European Union framework requires a solid and unequivocal engagement of the energy community partners in energy sector reform. At the same time, we need to continue our efforts in developing the necessary national and regional infrastructure in order to provide these countries with new supply sources and enhanced competitiveness. The Energy Union, as an European initiative, entirely supported from the energy security point of view, is based on the principle of diversification of both sources and supply routes in order to mitigate and any associated risk that stems from single supply over dependency. Romania had an active involvement in the elaboration of the concept and the programmatic documents of the Energy Union, with a view to both contribute to the European dialogue on this topic and to promote our national priorities. We are prepared to further offer our support to consolidate an appropriate Energy Union governance platform. The European debates may also filter through the national security in this field. For Romania, regional cooperation is an important chapter of the new energy strategy to be soon adopted. From our European experience and the regional evolution during the last decade, we have learned important lessons, and we are thus better understanding the merits of regional interconnections and market coupling. Romania's priorities are to maintain and ensure and a balanced energy mix while advancing regional cooperation. Import dependency is quite low in Romania compared with the most states members of the European Union. Gas imports are particularly low due, of course, to our own production of gas, but they come almost entirely from the east. All this translates into a relatively limited energy trade deficit expressed in percentage of the GDP. The energy mix reflects the country's natural resources and the historical industrial base. As a next step, Romania promotes the neutral technology principle, whereby the EU 2020 energy and climate targets are to be met, if not already surpassed, when we speak about Romania. It is no accident that Romania is not part of any of the much discussed initiatives that are highly political in nature and still controversial, to a lesser or a larger extent, in view of their economic feasibility. Various gas infrastructure projects emerged in the last years at European and regional level. South Stream, Turkish Stream, East Stream, Tesla, Nord Stream, Agri, among them, and many others. Romania constantly expressed its strong view that these projects should be assessed in line with EU market principles and rules, as described in the Energy Union strategy, diversification policy, including support for the Southern Corridor, third energy package, and the need to safeguard Ukraine's transit role in the European energy flow. We believe that our strategic energy objectives respond to these criteria. Among them, the development of the Black Sea offshore resources and the advancement of the nuclear sector are of particular interest. Expanding Cernavodă nuclear power plant with 2 new units of 700 megawatts each is an objective envisioned in an investment in low-carbon technologies in the context of the ambitious decarbonization objectives at the European level, considering the experience and the excellent results Romania has safely operating these existing nuclear facilities, the 2 nuclear CANDU reactors of Canadian technology. At a regional level, the discussions are not just about natural gas. In the oil field, we believe that a revised PEOP project could gain renewed tradition, and I know that CONPET, the national oil transport operator based, of course, in Prahova County, is prepared to participate in this initiative. CECEC, the regional intergovernmental framework for setting out projects of common interest, is extending its scope from gas to the power sector, promoting renewable energy and energy sufficiency. In order to meet electricity demand in the medium and long term at affordable prices for consumers, while maintaining quality, safety, and supply, and the principles of sustainable development, Romania must commission new energy capacities based on clean technologies that will cover the capacity shortages estimated to possibly occur after 2020 and expected to deepen after the 2020-25. The social equity rests so far as an issue of access and affordability, closely linked to energy security. High level of energy poverty require structural changes and investments in energy efficiency. We need to place consumers at the center of the market design in the power sector. The need to create a rational regional electricity market implies new generation capacities based on demand and supply, efficiency and high flexibility as prerequisites for integrating variable renewable sources in the mix while ensuring affordability for our consumers. At the same time, the need to create a rational regional gas market implies liberalization, interconnections, and tradability through market instruments. Let me conclude, ladies and gentlemen, by saying that from the perspective of the geostrategic position as a virtual bridge connecting Europe and Asia, and that of our goal to maintain stability and predictability in the region, Romania encourages an integrated approach of the wider Black Sea projects that aim at facilitating communication and economic exchanges between the two continents. As an EU member, subject to internal market rules and already beneficiary of important investments in the energy field from various countries like Italy, France, Germany, Russia, Kazakhstan, and others, Romania has proven its openness towards developing partnership with global and regional partners. By linking a traditional industry and its spin-off sector, be those petrochemicals or pharmaceuticals, to the most advanced technological trends and best practices, Romania has the opportunity to identify new ways of cooperation with important global stakeholders from the United States and China. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Romania is prepared to offer its full support for the both Energy Charter Secretariat and to our Ministry of Energy for a successful Romanian presidency of the Energy Charter Conference in 2018. Through the Energy Charter process, we aim to be able to share between member states of the organization national experiences and best practices regarding sustainable development, access to modern energy services, energy efficiency, as well as to contribute to the development of a new clean technologies on a large scale. I sincerely hope that the exchange of ideas taking place during today's event will contribute to a better understanding and cooperation in the energy field in our region. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Mr. Minister, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much. We will go down the list as it says in the agenda, and I would like for the audience to consider, as you hear the comments being made, in terms of integrating the region, the so-called 3 Cs initiatives, which links the Baltic with the Adriatic and the Black Sea. And when you think about that going through all of Europe, if that linkage can be made, just imagine the opportunities that persist and exist for improving the security across the border. Our next speaker will be Octavian Kalmyk, who is the Minister of Economic and Infrastructure from Moldova. Mr. Minister, thank you very much for joining us today.
Sigur că Republica Moldova a făcut pași pronunțați în tot ce ține de apropierea de infrastructura energetică europeană, dar nu este suficient. Am pornit în ultimii ani de zile prin consolidarea cadrului juridic, astfel încât să realizăm acele obiective fixate în acordul de asociere, în acordul de comerț liber aprofundat și cuprinzător cu Uniunea Europeană, astfel încât să fim cât mai aproape cu cadrul juridic, mai pe înțelesul investitorilor, mai pe înțelesul tuturor partenerilor care vin să dezvolte infrastructura energetică din regiune. Pe de altă parte, am pus accent pe dezvoltarea diferitor proiecte investiționale în regiune și ne referim în special la crearea de conexiuni și interconexiuni între vest și est prin intermediul Republicii Moldova. Și aici avem în dezvoltare un proiect de gazoduct care a fost lansată prima fază a fost realizată Iași-Chișinău, prima fază Iași-Ungheni, primul oraș de la frontieră, ca ulterior să dezvoltăm acest proiect și pe teritoriul României și pe teritoriul Republicii Moldova. Un alt proiect de legătură între vest și est este cel care ține de conectarea pe energie electrică, pe partea de sud, Isaccea, Vulcănești, Chișinău, cu componentă pronunțată regională, având în vedere faptul că va fi construită și o stație back-to-back care va asigura inclusiv și tranzitul de energie electrică în regiune, inclusiv în Ucraina. Sigur că noi încercăm să utilizăm această poziționare geografică a Republicii Moldova, creând aceste poduri de legătură între vest și est, dar nu numai. Încercăm să dezvoltăm această legătură și între nord și sud și dacă să ne subscriem sub toate acele inițiative de cooperare care există în regiunea Europei Centrale și de Sud-Est, tocmai Republica Moldova vine să fie parte în toate aceste inițiative și să încercăm să preluăm cele mai bune experiențe în acest sens. Complementar la cele vorbite, sigur că încercăm să diversificăm și proiectele de utilizare a resurselor regenerabile, o tendință care este destul de bine utilizată în țările europene. Suntem la un început de cale într-o implementare a acestor proiecte. Vreau să menționez că după lungi discuții, Parlamentul Republicii Moldova a votat această lege care la începutul anului viitor va fi aplicabilă, unde vor fi aprobate tarifele feed-in pentru orice tip de resursă regenerabilă și eu cred că este momentul pentru toți cei care investesc în regiune, care au experiență, care doresc să-și diversifice țările de implementarea asemenea proiecte. Republica Moldova este un sol fertil pentru a efectua acestea. Vorbim aici și de proiecte bazate pe biomasă, acolo unde urmează să utilizăm toată masa bio care există în Republica Moldova din sectorul agrar, dar vorbim și de diferite proiecte care țin de energia vântului, energia soarelui și de ce nu și alte proiecte de cogenerare a energiei electrice. Un alt element pe care aș vrea să vă menționez sunt proiectele investiționale de rând cu acele care țin de infrastructură. Republica Moldova are un program destul de vast de privatizări. Un component aparte acestui program de privatizări țin de companiile de distribuție a energiei electrice și două din acestea sunt în proprietatea statului, care sunt propuse pentru privatizare și încercăm în anul 2018 să atragem atenția investitorilor din regiune, astfel încât să încercăm ca acestea să devină parte a unor companii mari, naționale, mă refer din țările europene sau transnaționale, de ce nu. Și vreau să aduc sincere mulțumiri pentru cooperarea care a fost stabilită cu autoritățile din România pe tot ceea ce ține de creări de infrastructuri sau dezvoltări de infrastructuri și proiecte de conectări pe diferite dimensiuni, pe diferite domenii. Avem un dialog destul de activ pe dimensiunea guvernamentală, avem niște angajamente și o agendă destul de încărcată cu evenimente, astfel încât să putem să transformăm aceste proiecte sau designul acestor proiecte, să le transformăm în proiecte reale, care urmează să fie realizate până la sfârșitul anului 2018 sau până în 2020, atunci când vorbim despre interconectarea pe energie electrică. Noi suntem convinși că această comunicare va fi transmisă și operatorilor din piață, Mă refer în primul rând aici la Transgaz și la Transelectrica, companii unde statul român își are un cuvânt greu de spus, care și-au manifestat interesul de a veni pe piața Republicii Moldova, de a opera pe piața Republicii Moldova și eu cred că vom deveni niște jucători ca parte componentă a pieței europene. De fapt, asta este calea de acces spre Europa pentru Republica Moldova și prin dezvoltarea acestor proiecte de infrastructură ne facem să fim mult mai aproape unii de alții. Eu doresc succes acestui eveniment și cu plăcere vom răspunde la toate întrebările care vor fi. Mersi.
Mr. Minister, thank you very much, and thank you for keeping within the time constraint because we are pushed. It's a pleasure to introduce the Minister of Energy for Georgia, Mr. Ilya Iloshvili. Thank you very much. We'll share that.
Yes, please. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank all of the organizers for the great opportunity to be today here. It's first time for me to be visiting Romania, and definitely and I hope that it's not the last one, because Romania is and will be our great partner towards our future goals. I will try to very shortly just to give you briefly some major idea and some major messages regarding our energy system, regarding our energy sector, and regarding our mission, why we are here, and what we will try to pass to audience and to authorities in Romania. One of the major fact and development recently is that Georgia became full-pledged energy community, European energy community member. This means that for the next 4 years we will fully modernize our legislative base, our infrastructure, and in accordance to the principle of common jar, we hope that after 4 years we will become, in terms of our energy system, proud member of the European family. So we exceeded the political developments, and we are front runners in terms of unification with European Union. This is a very encouraging and very promising huge step which was taken in 2017. The other major aspect to understand the Georgia's energy system is that we are a country of renewable energy. And 75% of our electricity supply comes from our hydropower, and we have a wind power potential, we have solar potential, and this is a great gift to Georgia from God, because I believe that future is for the renewable energy, and Georgia has been developing, despite and against all odds, for the last 5 years, very drastically, its renewable energy sources. We have developed and constructed for the last 5 years 18 new hydropower plants and 1 new wind plant. This development will continue, and we hope that for the next 5 to 7 years to double our installed capacity in terms of renewable energy and develop more than 2,000 megawatt of new generation plants. The third and probably one of the most important aspects to understand the Georgia's energy system is that we are a real and natural crossroad, and we are really connecting west and east and north and south. And infrastructure that we developed in previous century and especially for the last decades allows us, and we are connected in terms of high voltage lines with Azerbaijan, with Armenia, with Russia, with Turkey, and we are developing infrastructure which will allow us to also connect Russia and Iran in terms of high voltage electricity lines together with Armenia. So this kind of connectivity with our neighboring countries gives us enormous flexibility in order to trade, to transit with the electricity among those countries, and to trade our electricity also and transit our electricity in European markets or neighboring markets. But of course, our pipeline system is, for the last decade, is well developed, and again we are also connecting east and west, but mostly and for the last decades, the emphasis was made towards the development of West and East connection, meaning that we are delivering stably for years and years now, and we are proven stable and very efficient partner in terms of delivering the Caspian Sea region resources towards the European markets. And the systems that we have, the Shahtinis system, the South Caspian pipeline, the Baku-Supsa pipeline, those are very important those are infrastructural systems which are benefiting millions of people in our region and delivering the energy means towards Turkey, towards the European markets. And what is important, that we are constantly and very strongly maintaining this role of effective and stable partner, and we are enhancing our system, and the improvement for this is SCPX, expansion of South Caspian pipeline, and we are participating in the new projects for developing new systems. And I think that I would like to emphasize for several projects, and we all know that Agri project is very important for our Romanian partners. We are fully part of it. However, our major mission now today and in general for the next upcoming and short and medium and long-term period will be to emphasize for the two, for us, very important projects. This is Trans-Caspian Pipeline and Y Stream. The vision that we have regarding those pipelines that they're complementary, not supplementary, and they are not competitors, because together they can ensure the throughput capacity, which we believe will be very interesting to Turkmenistan, to our Turkmen partners. And our visits, which we, together with our Honorable Prime Minister and our delegation, we had in the Turkmenistan, meeting on the highest level, of course, the President of Turkmenistan and the ministers, we understood clearly that the quantity which will be presented, the possibility of throughput capacity of the infrastructure that we will try to develop is very important for our partners in Turkmenistan, and therefore those two projects together will create a huge possibility and advantage for us to attract the Turkmen gas towards and ensure its transportation towards the European markets. What we have to admit that starting probably from 2010, Georgia became a bit passive in terms of passive partner for those projects. We became more introvert. We were more busy with our internal development of system and maintenance and increasing the throughput capacity. But now we are changing this attitude, and the first step which we took, very important I think, that we are partnering now with the promoter companies, the private companies that have decades and decades of experience of promoting the various, and especially those two projects. Government has already invested into these companies, and today we are here, and Romania is of course the very important country in the chain of the countries that will finally be the decision makers in terms of implementation. The time for approving those projects as in common projects of common interest is coming. By the end of this year, and in October and in November, December, the decisions has to be taken. And so here we are, just very strongly and openly, Georgia, which is an important partner for all the countries that are into the chain of those countries. We are presenting ourselves, and we are saying that those projects are very important for us, and we are looking forward for cooperation and support of Romanian authorities in terms of implementation and in terms of fulfillment of those projects. Thank you very much.
Mr. Minister, thank you very much for your succinct comments. They're very useful. The first of our American respondees is the Tsarina for Energy in the West European Bureau of the Department of State, Carly Snyder. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
I'm sitting near you. I am the Tsar, or I just wanted to.
It's not an editorial comment when the minister leaves.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and it's an honor to be on such a distinguished panel. I wanted to start by congratulating Romania on its commitment to becoming a regional energy player. We really appreciate our very close working relationship with Romania on energy issues. Our administration is a staunch supporter of European energy security. We believe it's key to ensuring that Europe continues to be a strong partner, both in terms of trade and investment and in terms of addressing global challenges. Our President's energy policy is focused on 3 pillars: removing barriers to energy development and trade, promoting U.S. energy exports, including technology, services, and resources, and ensuring economic and energy security for the U.S. and for our partners and allies. That's what I'll be talking about today. We urge all of our allies to work to enhance their energy security through liberalization of gas and all energy markets and diversification, particularly through regional connectivity. Thanks to the EU Energy Union and to tireless efforts in Brussels and member state capitals, including Bucharest, we've seen real progress: interconnections, energy efficiency, new sources of gas like LNG, but there's still a lot of work to do. This is obviously a top priority because still so many European countries rely on a single supplier for gas. And I think people remember well in January 2009 when gas supplies were cut off to Ukraine and later through Ukraine to the rest of Europe. We are not trying to eliminate Russian gas. We think it should and must be part of the energy mix, but we think that we need to work towards minimizing dependency and ensuring that we have an open and competitive energy market where all players play by free market rules. So to achieve energy security, we believe in diversification of source, type, and route, as people have mentioned before. And as such, we support European gas and electricity projects that advance true diversification. In the gas sector, we support Romania's efforts to move forward with BRUA, and which we believe is key to a north-south gas corridor. We also are big supporters of the Southern Gas Corridor, which will bring Caspian Sea to Europe for the first time. We're also very supportive of other regional interconnectors that are key to the success of all of these projects: the interconnector Greece-Bulgaria, interconnector Bulgaria-Serbia, et cetera. Also, another very important element is is increasing import infrastructure for LNG imports. We are very supportive of efforts right now in Croatia, Greece, and Southern Europe. U.S. LNG is really changing the energy picture. It's increasing flexibility and contributing to a much more liquid and competitive market. Interconnectivity in the electricity sector is obviously another priority. It's one where USAID has been working with Romania and other countries in the region to work to harmonize regulations and strengthen the electricity market. Beyond infrastructure, the EU implementation of market liberalization laws is a key issue to ensure proper functioning of gas and electricity systems. I'd also like to emphasize that beyond energy security, we need to be increasingly vigilant to physical and cybersecurity threats to energy infrastructure. This is an area where we hope to increase cooperation with Romania and all of our European partners. Romania, because of its geopolitical situation, long history of energy development and production, and close U.S. ties, is really a critical player in energy security. Romania has already made very important contributions, such as their support for the connection with Moldova, their progress on BRUA, and the connections with Bulgaria, and obviously the one with Hungary that's in the works. But we believe that Romania has a key role to continue to play in the future in developing the north-south corridor and creating a more competitive regional market. I should also note that the U.S. shares widespread European concerns about projects that undermine European energy security, such as Nord Stream 2 and Turkish Stream. We believe these projects reinforce Russian dominance of the gas sector. They advance Russia's goal of eliminating transit through Ukraine, and they reduce opportunities for true diversification because they're a distraction from real diversification. We welcome the efforts of our European partners to fully scrutinize Nord Stream 2, and including the European Commission proposal to establish a mandate that we hope will apply the third energy package in full to this project. We look forward to continuing to work closely with Romania on energy. Like I said, Romania has already done so much, and we know it will continue to play a very important role in the future.
Thank you very much. We are now going to venture across to the Bosporus with our guest from Turkey, Mehmet Abacu, who is the president of Global Resources Partnership and the founder of the Bosporus Energy Club.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to thank also the organizers, Aspen Institute. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you also for agreeing for me to speak 70 minutes instead of 7 minutes like others, because of a wide range of issues that I'm going to have.
We're not using the decimal system. It's going to be 7.
Connectivity is critical in today's age. Connectivity of people through internet, Facebook, social media, travels. You know, in 1 week, I was visiting 7 major cities around the world. And connectivity is also very important for the energy sector. It is increasing our efficiency. It is connecting us, especially energy, as you know, is usually produced in areas away from major centers of consumption. So you have to bring it to the end users, for which you need infrastructure. But if you look at the pictures of the performance of infrastructure projects, you see great difficulties in really building them and making them efficient. There are so many infrastructure and energy projects on the drawing board, and very few of them takes off. There are reasons for that, which we should, I think, discuss. Nabucco was one. More than 10 years we discussed it. Nothing happened. While China built a pipeline from Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan to its Xinjiang region, and we continued more than 10 years to discuss virtues of this project. Then TANAP came, with stakeholders aligned clearly, and producers, transit, investors, consumers, all of them came together, and with financiers. But if today, I was discussing with BP actually, if today you wanted to build a TANAP project, you wouldn't find anybody to put a penny behind it, because the conditions have changed. There was a window of opportunity, it was captured, now it's moving forward because the finance is there, $45 billion, and countries from Azerbaijan, Shah Deniz 2, Georgia, Turkey, and through TAP to Europe. And also, still we don't know whether on the European side there will be enough demand, because we see declining demand in natural gas, and also other mobile ways of bringing natural gas, especially FSRU, floating LNG. In Spain, only 30% of the LNG capacity is used. All this infrastructure is idle. So therefore, mobility is going to become very important in infrastructure. Perhaps we will not need these antiquated infrastructure projects. Smart grids might replace partly some of the natural gas pipelines as well. And also the rise of renewables in our energy mix, faster than we expected, because if you look at IEA, they thought that by 2040 we'll have perhaps 7 to 8% of our energy mix as renewables. We already passed that. So projections, perhaps good indications, but we shouldn't believe them so much. And it will be eating up the share of natural gas in our energy mix. This is happening already in Turkey. And in our power mix, the share of natural gas was about 50%. It came down to 25, 26%. Likewise, also one of the speakers already mentioned, we have a very heavy dependency on certain suppliers. In Turkish case, 55% of natural gas comes from Russia. And now we are building Turkish Stream 1 and 2, and we also have so many projects on the drawing board from not only Azerbaijan, but also from Iran. They are ready to sell us more if the price is good and if we can buy more volumes. Then we also have Kurdish region of Iraq, where my company is the major producer of oil. We are in great difficulty because of this independence referendum. As a result, all these projects, infrastructure projects, for which we have a market, we already allocated the capital, but because of the geopolitical risks, all of a sudden, it may not go ahead because of what will happen between Erbil and Ankara. And likewise with Russia, Turkish Stream, we were about to shelve it after what happened, the shooting down of Russian Su-25 on the Syrian-Turkish border. We said, that's it, finish almost. And then Putin and Erdogan coming together and making other deals, package deals, it's not only energy. And then it has been revived now. I think the first leg, which will bring about 15 BCM of gas to Turkey, will happen by the end of 2019. Because for us, it is supply nut, because this is the gas we are already receiving through Ukraine, Romania, and Bulgaria, and we will be having it directly under the Black Sea now. But the second leg of Turkish Stream, if it goes ahead, I don't think it can go ahead together with Nord Stream 2. So Russians are using one against the others. And that will be very problematical if Europe doesn't get this gas, and this will dominate Turkish market, which we try to reduce the dependence to European levels, 30% from 55. So it's going to be even worse. Then also, if you look at other geographies, because we are so much obsessed about Europe, lots of problems here, we know, but we have to have a wider view of the world energy and infrastructure connections in order to better understand where we are and how we can connect. Chinese is wonderful in this regard. While we talk, they do it discreetly, without much fanfare. And this One Belt, One Road initiative started a couple of years ago. They are now spending $90 billion a year on energy and infrastructure projects. They already started it. There is no other country in the world that can put that much money into infrastructure. And it's not only energy, but it's also telecom, highways, and cables, that you name it. It is also somehow related to trade, first of all, creating an economic corridor directly, land, because they are so much concerned about Malacca dilemma, geopolitical risk. If one day the Americans think that Chinese are creating problems in the Southeast China Sea or East China Sea with Japan, Taiwan, so the Seventh Fleet might disrupt any time Malacca Strait, which is the critical choke point for all Chinese export-imports of crude, gas, minerals, and services and other exports. So Central Asia will be safe for them at least, or Pakistan Economic Corridor, for which they already spent $55 billion. Therefore, I think the critical thing for countries, especially like my own country, is we depend heavily on oil and gas imports. 98% of our gas is imported, and 93% of oil. Therefore, this is not a simple commercial commodity for us. It is a national security matter. It is also closely related to our foreign policy. If you look at what's happening with Iran, Russia, Georgia, and Kurdish region, and East Med gas one day, if it comes through Turkey as well. Therefore, there is, I think, need for Turkey somehow to connect itself to European Union as well, which is not happening because the problems are continuing. My personal view is that we have to kill this perennial lie about Turkish accession. It's not going to happen anytime soon, unless we change the European Union drastically and Turkey as well. Therefore, more, I think, win-win collaborative integration projects could be taught. Energy could be easily one of them. And if I don't stop now, I'm sure you are going to shoot me down.
That's terrific. Yes, just like an Su-25. Mahmoud, thank you very much. We will now shift the scene to Brussels with Christian Ingehofer, who is the director of the SEPS, which is what, the Central European Policy Studies. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Good,
almost.
Christian.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Yeah, I'm the director of the SEPS Energy Climate House, which is the energy and climate division of SEPS, Brussels-based think tanks. So why I'm here, I'm not a minister, and I'm not a foreign policy expert, but we have been working a lot on CSEC, and it has been mentioned today that tomorrow there will be an important European meeting bringing together the energy ministers of the region to sign a memorandum of understanding for a future framework to cope with vulnerability in the region, security of supply, which was following from the South Stream cancellation. The ministers, a couple of ministers went together and say, hey, we should do something about this. We should think what we can do there. And that has started in February 2015 and now has gotten quite an important traction. And I should add, we were involved already before in trying to identify agenda for this, so we are very happy to continue in that debate. What I would like to do here is just to point out a few lessons, a few challenges, and maybe also pick up some of the points that have been made before. So Central and Southeast European Gas Connectivity Group, CSEC, so it's about gas. Now, already by now, what has happened was this group made a contribution, you can say important, not important, but made a contribution to security of supply. It had signed a first action plan, and in that action plan, it's interesting, focusing very much on interconnectors, limited infrastructure project, which increases, of course, the security of supply immediately, and it can be quickly done and fast. So that was very much the hardware element, hardware, digging things, putting things into the ground. Now, what we have seen in the last 2 years, that there was a shift of emphasis from the hardware, which is, of course, the core, to also the software, the market functioning. So CSEC has managed to link, at least at the diplomatic level, not always in day-to-day politics, but at the diplomatic level, the infrastructure also needs functioning markets, so at least it's beneficial, and the investment will happen much faster and easier. So the rules, the market rules, have become important. So the connectivity discussion in that group now has become have included now also the market element of this. How do you organize the flows and not just how you organize the infrastructure. There were a number of quite unique and practical achievements, which I think are worthwhile recalling here. There was from the very beginning, that's the first one, a top-down element from the European Commission. It's part of the European family, this whole region. So, but there were a lot of input from the region, a lot of initiatives, and most of the initiatives that work came out from the region. I think that was a very, very important success factor, if you want to share my view that it is a success, a relative success. An interesting part was also that we have a geographical definition. We were scratching our head for years, what is Central and Southeast Europe, who is in and out, and now, but by defining it around infrastructure, it's so much easier because flows flow, and you can measure them, and therefore you see very clearly where you belong to. And of course, Italy and Austria belong to that part of framework. So no definition, am I Southeast Europe, am I not, am I Central Europe? So all of this is gone if you build it around infrastructure. I think very, very important point. Now, we have a single framework for the region. Fantastic. There is no ins and outs, almost no ins and outs, I should say. I'm looking to my neighbor at the left. Of course, there is issues about how do you collect to Turkey, how do you connect this to Russia. But from the European family part, there is no ins and outs, which is a very, very unique situation. Normally the EU works, you know, you have the EU people with the EU flag and the other side of the table are the others. Now this is all one family, and I think this is an important element, giving a lot of traction. A lot of traction was also coming from focusing on tangible and practical projects. 7 of the 20 identified have been signed. Now whether they happen or not, you know, that's another story, linked very much to the markets, linked also to the stakeholder involvement. But this practical and tangible project was a very important thing to get traction, and we should not forget about this. You know, they're not talking about the vision and the future in 2030 and all this. Now, it's currently expanded to electricity. Makes a lot of sense because energy security, cyber security is all around electricity. I mean, it is also about around this. Renewable, huge potential in the region, huge experience. What is missing here is now the follow-up investments. That is one of the big challenges for the region, not the technical capacity of integrating. That is all done. Energy efficiency, the third area is to enlarge, holds a lot of security of supply benefits. We know that. There is money in the region, there is money available, but the capacity is lacking. A lot of the capacity is lacking to do this, and that is going to be addressed by energy, by the South Energy Efficiency Center, which might then move across the countries, and that will be discussed today. Now, so what are the challenges? If I have 2 more minutes before I got shut down, as you do, you used 1 more, so 1 less, maybe I take 1 of yours. Let's look ahead. The challenges is now to move also this discussion in CSEC. The first one is from to include from moving from the current infrastructure, the infrastructure of the futures. We're talking about more electricity, gas integration, cybersecurity. These are the new energy security initiatives, issues which need to be addressed. A second is the finance. This region depends far too much on public finance. Unless we get into a situation where there is more private investment, more leveraged funds doing this, we are not going to get to all the beautiful infrastructure projects we have been hearing. This is one important thing, and I believe a key element is the market, and have a wider political discussion, including the stakeholders, that people actually understand what we are talking. It's not just some fantasies of some very bright people. The last point, now it is important for me to keep the lessons. And what were the lessons there? Focus on tangible projects, you know, keep the bottom-up element there, and this all only will work unless if we include the market dynamics, the market logic, and that you know, energy companies actually make money. We have mentioned that before, make money off their investment and all these kind of, you know, difficult, politically very difficult issue. That focusing more on the software, as the EU will say, and you will hear a lot of this in the future there, and I guess a bigger, and that is a good starting point, I guess, a bigger involvement of the broader stakeholder community, which I think is happening at least today, you know, a little bit off Bucharest, but still in Romania. Thank you.
Christian, thank you very much. In American baseball, the power player is called to be hitting cleanup. And so batting cleanup, but not necessarily in the right order, is Arnold Dupuy, who is an adjunct professor from Virginia Tech and has a very distinguished background in all the matters relating to energy and security. Arnold, thank you for waiting patiently. And you have 7 minutes.
Okay. Thanks, Harlan. Is it possible to get my slides? I realize I may have given Anna some wrong information, but I think there's a couple maps I'd like to point to, if that's possible. But first of all, while it's being done, I first want to thank the Aspen Institute of Romania for the invitation. Very important discussion we're having here. I also want to thank our Romanian hosts. I'm looking at Dan right now for the tremendous hospitality you've shown myself, but also I think my American colleagues will agree with me that this has been a tremendously hospitable event in a few days here. Real quickly, what I bring a different, or perhaps a unique perspective on this, looking at this from a security standpoint. As Harlan mentioned, am an adjunct at Virginia Tech, where I've been focusing on Black Sea and also energy. But also, I'm a employee of a company called Booz Allen Hamilton, where I'm full-time at the Pentagon in the operational energy sector as a contractor. So anything I say right now will be my own personal views, not necessarily and certainly not the policy of the U.S. government or Booz Allen or Virginia Tech. So again, these are my own personal views from some time looking at energy in the region. So if I can just give you 4 points, I realize we're under a time constraint here. There are 4 points that I want to present to you that I look at from a security standpoint, and that's Romania's strategic position in a very challenging region. I look at it as and I'm not alone in this, as a geostrategic anchor, along with Poland and Romania, sort of on the eastern edge of Europe, and from a very valuable position in that regard. The second point is the value of the commercial markets, commercial, in particular the procurement of fuel, procurement of liquid fuels and so on, for security purposes, for DoD purposes. Again, that's very critical. The other area that I look at is also interoperability. Interoperability meaning not just weapon systems and doctrine, but also in this case looking at the types of fuels that are going to be needed, the types of power that we have. So, okay, great, thanks. Thank you for that. I'm sorry if I gave some incorrect information, but if we can go down to the, just quickly go down to the first map. I think I've already covered this part. Again, we've seen this before. Again, the shift, the redistribution of power in Europe. We're very interested in that. And you could go to the next slide, please. This, over the last 10 years, this depicts the joint exercises that we've had with Eastern European partners and allies. Again, having joined the Army first in the 1980s, when at the height of the Cold War, this is just an amazing conception to see that we were actually training in these countries where 25, 30 years ago they were certainly our adversaries. Again, the value of training is twofold. One is the interoperability aspect I mentioned, but also it's a very visual, very potent demonstration of solidarity that we have with our allies, and in this case, we're speaking particularly of Romania. Next slide, please. I like this map very much. It shows our footprint. Again, we're looking at the anchors, as we call them. Romania, certainly, and you see and Poland, and you see the footprint that we're talking about, the DoD footprint. We're talking about, in Romania, we look at air assets, we're looking at naval assets, also looking at a missile defense system. All these are critical to our mission, and also to Romania's position in the Black Sea region. So in that capacity, we're very interested in infrastructure. Very interested in the host nation infrastructure, the ability to support a large influx of personnel and equipment, but also the ability to withstand a variety of challenges, whether it's cyber, very important, and also any type of direct action. So I mentioned that the 3 of the 4. The last area that we look at is infrastructure, and in this case, there's a lot of emphasis being placed lately, and more I'm seeing in my area, on cyber energy, particularly as it relates to the operational side. And when I say operational, I mean operational energy. I mean that energy needed by the warfighter to conduct his or her mission. So, looking at wide range from liquid fuels to battlefield power, power on the battlefield. So, we're very interested in the local infrastructure. Look how resilient it is. And that ranges from hardened assets to cybersecurity. We go to the next slide, please. We can skip that one out. We understand there's a east-west dynamic, and skip that one, please. The fuel mix, again, we understand that. Again, I want to emphasize the private sector's role. A point that I like to make is there is no DoD energy infrastructure. There are at certain levels on the bases we have dedicated facilities for energy. But for the most part, DoD is reliant on the private sector for its fuel, primarily refined products. So again, the private sector is extremely important. The ability to procure either jet fuel or diesel or maritime fuel on the local market here in Romania is extremely valuable. So to have that capacity is critical to the overall mission. Next slide, please. The last few days, I've heard quite a bit about the 3 Cs initiative, and Harlan just reinforced that, and I'm glad to show that I was also thinking along the same lines. The 3 Cs initiative, again, I think is a important depiction of how Eastern Europe is sort of concentrated in that region, how it's in many ways being forced to work together into some capacity. But it's a nice demarcation where you can determine the extent of Eastern Europe and its dynamic. Next slide, please. Just quickly looking at the choke points, these are narrow areas where you can inhibit the flow. In this case, we're looking primarily at maritime traffic, crude, but also refined products can be inhibited by choke points. In this case, looking at the Turkish Straits, but also Suez and Gibraltar, where there are potential for challenges to getting the fuel where it's needed. Next slide, please. Try and finish up here really quickly because I know I don't want to go far over my. Another point we're looking at quite often in DoD is the CIP/CAR, Critical Infrastructure Protection and Resilience. Again, very important to, again, the idea is you can't protect everything, because in which case you protect nothing, but you have to focus on what you consider your priorities. And again, looking at whether it's kinetic, non-kinetic, or again, heavy emphasis lately on cyber. So I want to reinforce that as much as, excuse me, as much as possible. Next slide, please. Again, the issue of developing resilience through source diversity, through hardened assets, through storage, and again, the emphasis on cyber energy. Next slide, please. Concluding thoughts. Again, just some of my general thoughts. I mentioned the 4 areas. I see that as Romania becomes more of a partner in the region, more of an asset in the region, that we will continue, and by necessity, continue to interact, not just militarily, but certainly economically and politically. I think that's very important to encompass the full spectrum of security. A couple nights ago, I remember some of the people I was talking to were debating how Romania should look outside of its borders and how it should interact with its neighbors. And my point is that I don't think Romania has a choice. I think it's absolutely vital to look outside its borders, to try and shape whatever the environment is. And in that capacity, it's a critical ally to the United States, in which there's really a mutually dependent dynamic there between the two countries, and that should continue, hopefully will continue very far into the future, and include both exercises, training exercises, military exchanges, education, training, development, but again, also, as I mentioned, economic development, economic security issues, as well as political and along those lines. So, next slide, please. So, the bottom point I have there is energy secure Romania is a prosperous and stable Romania, and I think we're seeing that now. I think Romania, being a very stable component to the region, is an asset that the U.S. values, that the U.S. recognizes. Again, from State Department down to the Pentagon. And we're very interested in maintaining that relationship. And energy, of course, is a critical component to all this stability. So, anyways, my final thoughts. Next slide. If you're any interest in contacting me.
Before I thank the panel, I would like to give the audience a homework assignment. And the homework assignment is this. Infrastructure and energy are critically related, and they are driving factors, as I said earlier, to improve security economically, physically, and strategically. But the question is, who is going to lead? Who are going to be the leaders, and how is this going to be done? So those are your two questions. I expect written answers tomorrow morning. On behalf of the panel, thank you very much for a very productive session. I'm told that because the next speaker is running a little bit late, please take a 10-minute break. Thank you all very much.